All right, everyone. Good afternoon on Multifamily on Zoom. Welcome back. As you know, at Must, we don't just talk about deals, we also solve real problems. So today we have a speaker that's gonna get us into how to manage our investors. So today's topic is one of those things that you can either slow you down or help you scale. Because let's be honest, raising capital is one thing, managing investors well is a whole different level. That's why I'm really excited about today's guest. We are joined by Scott from AppFolio. He's here to break down how professional operators are using systems to simplify investor management, from communication to reporting to distribution. If you ever felt overwhelmed managing investors, this session is for you. So, Scott, welcome. Thank you for being here with us today. We are so excited to have.
Hi, Susan. Hi, everyone. Not sure if that's my internet that might be a little slow and choppy.
Hey, I can hear you. Suze looks like she froze on her end, but hopefully she'll be back in a bit.
Well, great to see you, Eve, and great to see everyone here today. Maybe we can give her just a minute and see if it reconnects there.
All right, I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
I guess I was talking just to myself.
No, we heard most of that. I think right you were right there at the introduction part.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So basically, yes, I was saying today we went Scott over from AppFolio to get us, especially us, most of us here are raise money for capital. So basically, he's gonna show us how what tool we need to use that is very important for distribution reporting and even raising the capital as well. So that's why we have Scott here to tell us um what we need to do for our next capital raising. So, Scott, thank you for being here with us today. We are so excited to learn from you. So, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Suze. And nice to meet everyone. I, uh, as Suze was mentioning, I come from a company called AppFolio. Has anyone heard of AppFolio or anyone familiar? You can feel free to either shoot a note in the chat or even raise a hand in the participants bar at the very bottom there. But for those of you who might know AppFolio, you might know us from the property management software space. And you can think of AppFolio here actually in two halves, where there's the property management side, and then you've got the investment management side, which that is what we were going to be speaking about today. So if you do have some prior knowledge and you're thinking we're only property management, today will surprise you in a pleasant way. And we're focusing solely on the investment management challenge. And that's working with investors, managing fundraises or any sort of capital raise, managing all investor communication, managing the entire fundraising workflow, which is something that I think will be a really exciting part of our agenda today, where we can talk about the marketing and promoting of new deals. We can talk about the entire subscription document process, and then as well talk about
Uh,
even.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it looks like we're just looking at your dashboard, not if you're sharing slides or
Nope, nope. That's
you're
that's
just
this is
looking
my.
at the dashboard.
Yep, just wanted to
Okay.
show. So this for my introduction today, I wanted to minimize the amount of slides. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I find in the world of software, instead of describing the software or showing things like slides, far more effective to dive right in. And I like to kind of hold myself accountable, put my feet to the fire. I want to show you guys the reason why people not only are shifting to using systems, but why the majority of those people are shifting to AppFolio. and have that be a core theme that you look for when you're looking for systems. Really important that I focus on those key reasons why people choose them, where it's not so much me telling you, hey, this is why this software is great. I want to talk about software in a very real, practical way and showcase how it solves problems, because that's what software should do. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things and some of the challenges that people initially run into that make them go, gosh, there's got to be a better way to do this than spreadsheets. And the first thing is just organizing all of their different contacts, all of the different, let's call them the folks in their Rolodex. So the actual individual investors or their investing entities, and then managing those complex relationships that always seem to come up. Here in my demo database, and you can think of this entire database as a one-stop shop for all things that I might need or want to do, related to investment management. And to Suze's point, managing investors. So this being my CRM component that, again, this is all internally built when it comes to AppFolio. Other systems out there that you might work with, they might have either an internally built CRM, they might only be a CRM, or they might use some sort of third party. Today, one of the themes that I want to highlight is that using third-party connected tools or having multiple tools just to do the same overall process is going to slow you down. It's going to become what Suze mentioned is not scalable at some point. So in AppFolio, we do a really, really unique thing where we build everything in-house, and everything is all interconnected, and we build this holistically so it's got everything you could ever imagine. The CRM, e-signature, payments, it's all in one place, especially all of your investor functionality as well. So the CRM component here, this is actually going to serve as the crux of much of the system. This is going to house all of your investors' data, whether it's sensitive, whether it's the more generic data. So if I click into one of my actual contacts here, we'll pick on Michael Anderson. Michael Anderson here, he's one of my actual investors. Now, you're going to have systems out there that, maybe they claim to have a CRM and maybe they claim to understand this. The challenges that people will run into is the way that they organize the data in the system, where it ignores the fact that all of these investors will also be tied and layered within various different investing entities. So one thing to note here that you should always be looking for is how do they organize the data in the CRM? So it's never just, does it have a CRM? It's how does that CRM particularly operate? So let's take a look at what those investing entities look like. What you can see here is a list of various LLCs, IRAs, trusts, what have you. It doesn't quite matter in our system here. We cover any and all of them. Not every CRM does that. So let's pick on one example here really quickly, like Capital Partners. And one of the reasons I picked this one, I'll skip past all of the entity data, some of the various other information that you can log here in your CRM. And I want to focus on, again, the contacts and the way that these are layered. This will look much like the investing entity here, which is a corporate entity. It will have any number of related contacts within this. And those will actually serve as the actual individuals, and they're contained here under the contacts tab. So I can look at this in two various different ways, contacts or the investing entities or vice versa. And essentially here, what we're looking at is a way to structure and layer the investors and the various entities, the ownership entities that they might be working with. Now that's really, it might seem pretty dry and very basic, but that's quite important, especially when it comes to the very end result of what's going to happen with all of the data. We need to be able to not only produce accurate reporting, but we need to make sure that reporting gets sent to the right people. So that's what's happening here, is that we're effectively able to tie all of that reporting to the right person and do this in an automated way. And Suze, do I have the should I ask for questions too? I want to make sure that people can feel like they can jump in with any
Yeah,
questions.
you can go ahead and ask, yeah, if they have any question. That's fine.
Fantastic. I'll give just a couple seconds here. Anyone have any questions they might want to jump in and interject? Okay, we'll keep moving. Keep moving. Now, this is an area here that Sue's mentioned to me would be an area that would probably spark a lot of questions and be of much larger interest is the fundraising functionality here. Now, not every system, again, is built the same. And AppFolio is extremely unique. One, in that we build every piece of this in-house. So including the e-signatures platform that we're using here. And now, not everyone does this in the same way. The reason AppFolio does this in a way where we build every piece in-house, every piece of the system here is controlled and managed by AppFolio, is because we want to make sure that you guys, when using a system like ours, you have all of the control and an entirely reliable system that's in your control and your governance, where you can make sure that no issues happen. When you're using third-party tools to manage a fundraise, the last thing you'd want is for something to break. And then it's not only a bad look with your investors, it's a really, really tough thing to recover from, and it's just going to add more work to your plate. And when we're already pretty bootstrapped for time as it is. So what we're looking at here, let's go ahead and pick an example investment. The thing that sets AppFolio apart and that I could plug as far as what we'll do that will give you results that you'll never see with another system is being able to provide such an easy to use tool like what I'm looking at here. By the way, this would be akin to your view, the GP's view. This would be the GP's view of the entire backside of this fundraise. And what we're going to do is produce and add all of this content to produce what an investor would see and experience. So I'm sure many of you have probably seen something very similar here, where this is our the digital deal room. So this is what an investor would see. Are any of you guys currently using any systems that produce a digital deal room and market and you promote deals in this format? Sounds like
Type it in the chat, guys, if yes or no in the chat.
sounds like maybe. And I do see a couple questions we can get to towards the end. So for those of you who haven't seen a digital deal room like this, we find that actually 1 in 4 investors today are investing this. So on average, they're actually splitting their capital that they invest in real estate across about, on average, 4 to 5 different firms. And among those 4 to 5 different firms, we find that actually about 2 to 3 of those are using some type of investment management system, like what I'm showing on my screen. So that's a pretty big chunk. I mean, that it's pretty likely that your investors have been exposed to a system like this and that their expectations will be framed around this experience. So what a lot of these different investment management tools look to do is they look to reduce your time and your complexity spent building out one of these fundraisers. And one of the things that AppFolio does that takes us a couple steps further is that we give you a one-stop shop that allow you to not only build the entire fundraising workflow, we even also include really handy AI tools that allow you to build the fundraise. So for example, this saves you the most amount of time when you just drag and drop a PPM or an operating memorandum, and it's actually going to build this entire fundraising page here for you, pulling just the information that you had in that PPM or operating memorandum, which is really powerful. This will save
All right.
probably about, right, 4 or 5 hours. Pretty incredible right off the bat there. Suze, did you want
I
to?
have a question.
Absolutely.
Yes, I need to interject a little bit. So once you use AppFolio to raise your capital, right? So you don't have to prepare your pitch deck. Is that what you're saying? So you can just load up the PPM that the lawyer gives you in here, and that will go ahead and make your pitch deck for you.
Absolutely. In fact, that's a great way of looking at it is, uh, some people always ask me, hey, can you add a pitch deck? Can we incorporate that into this fundraise? Well, with a system like this, my question is, of course you absolutely could, but why bother? Why need to? Because if I were to, I mean, you could even drag and drop a PPM and then start off here by loading just the generic information on the deal. But why even bother or feel the need to add a pitch deck to all of this information when it itself becomes the pitch deck? And it does something that the pitch deck cannot, which this not only becomes the pitch deck, this becomes actionable. If they want to take action and they're just looking at a pitch deck, they got to call you. They got to send you emails. They're probably going to ask a lot of questions. We want to reduce that amount of friction, and we want to simplify the process between them showing or becoming somewhat interested and then becoming fully invested in that deal. So this green invest button here, this investor fully independently, without ever needing to call you, would be able to go from just viewing that deal to not only putting in, let's say, a soft commit, they'll be able to start the entire process and complete the entire process, going through all of their signature documents and all their subscription documents, and actually even being able to send their contributed capital all directly from one system. And that capital will go directly from their bank to your bank, which is really powerful. The investors feel like that is just the creme de la creme, top-notch experience that they can find out here in investment management. You can think of it as Robinhood, as a Robinhood app specifically for your business and your investors.
That is great. I didn't know that AppFolio could do that. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty unique. So one of the things that I find here is that the ease of use is so nice where anyone who maybe feels like they're not incredibly tech savvy, even those folks can find that the system is so approachable and easy to use. This would be almost like building out a Facebook page where we're adding photos, maybe adding some content, and realistically, if we've used that AI import, it's built out most of this information here for me. So we're ready to go. In fact, we can become ready to go and launch this new fundraise. Oftentimes, folks can do that in just about a couple hours. So incredibly fast. When we're talking working with deals that I might need to fundraise, and I might need to launch that fundraise at the drop of a hat, AppFolio's got you covered. So, and Suze, I felt like the e-signature here, this is an area that a little bit more complicated. I think for today's presentation, it might be a little bit more fun to talk about some of the areas here, like active investments, or even going through just after the active investments, go through the investors portal like we did earlier in the week. And I think that the reason I find looking at an active investment here is to showcase a system like this and its capacity to support your business beyond the fundraise, which is really important. So if I pick one of my active deals here, so Heights West, this is a deal that's post fundraise. So we've got all of our investors, we've got all of our different contributions. Everyone has, fully signed all of their subscription documents, and they've all done that directly through AppFolio. So we were able to launch and spin up this page in record time, and we also have all of our investors and their ownership percentage, how much they contributed. We were tracking all of their distributions and any unreturned capital, net equity, any accrued balances. We're automating that entire process. Again, all within one system. So this system here is designed to actually offload any and all of the work you're doing in spreadsheets to a one-stop shop tool here. And what we're looking at right now is the position and cap tables. I see that we've got some Google spreadsheets lovers. I'd love to hear too if anyone has opposition to offloading, or maybe some like they feel like they can't trust a system and offload some of this work, because I get that all the time. It's one of the most common questions that we have is, well, how is the system calculating this? And that's exactly what we'll get into here. And you can tell me too if you'd feel more comfortable doing that in spreadsheets, or if you'd feel more comfortable avoiding any of the, because I know myself, I've fat fingered a number here and there and carried bad numbers through in calculations. We're all human. So one of the things that I also like to note here is that in our system, in AppFolio, we always focus on ease of use. And things like, how many of you, I'm wondering if any of you guys have any waterfalls, or create any sort of, more complicated payback structures for your deals. And I'll edit one of my waterfalls here. A typical structure might be like an 80-20 split. Let's say, an 8% pref, 80-20 split, up to like a 10% IRR hurdle. And then we've got maybe a 70-30 split up to a 15% IRR hurdle. And then after that, we're just going to do a straight 90-10 split. That's a pretty typical waterfall structure that we'll see. And this can get quite complicated when we're looking at this in spreadsheets and calculating this in a spreadsheet. Not to say that it's impossible, not to say that it's, one of the most difficult things. Realistically here, our time is better spent than, running these calculations and doing this manually. We don't need to do that. So one of the things that our system does is it allows you to create not just one, but actually two separate waterfalls for each individual deal. So that way it will accommodate and it will adapt to exactly the way that you calculate the payments for that particular deal. And once we have set up our waterfall for the deal, now we can go ahead and utilize that while we're calculating any of our investor payments. So if I hit add distribution here, and this is where, well, I do get a lot of questions. So let's go ahead and say Q1 2026. I can type here. And this way we can run an example through our example waterfall. And the only thing that you'd need to tell our system here is what would the total distributable amount would be. This is typically coming from the property level data itself. So all we need to do is hit calculate. And for those of you who are probably very interested, or the ones who are pretty married to your spreadsheets and want to stay with spreadsheets, this is where I can understand that there's a lot of questions. So what we like to do is we like to offer full transparency and show you exactly how it's being calculated. And again, with that waterfall setup, you're actually the one who's in control of setting up exactly what this formula would look like. And if there's any micro adjustments that need to be made, we can help make them so that this will match exactly the way that you would plan and hope to calculate all of your investor payments. And the beauty of that is we are calculating them within the system so that we can continue to update all of those cap tables. So the ongoing tracking of how much have we paid is also being tracked and updated, so that we can also push this to an investor's portal and update their reporting. It's a great question here. How many of you have an investor portal? If you don't mind, is it anyone here currently using a portal? Okay.
Yeah, I'm putting some engagement in there to see what people are in their investment.
That's common. I do hear that there are, a variety of different setups. And for the longest time, not using a system was probably the most common, let's say, scenario. But that percentage has dwindled so much in just the past 2 years. Post-COVID, and Suze, you and I chatted about this. COVID really changed the way that people engage with not only each other, but engage with different projects. And the digital format is so important. And I think that that's probably a really great segue here to shift and look at the investor's side of this experience. And I intentionally left my logo here as a more generic logo. What we're looking at here is the investor's portal, so the investor and what they see in this experience. So any LPs working with, let's say, myself in the firm here through AppFolio, you guys have a fully white labeled investor portal. So this we're very concerned with is making sure that this is a one-to-one relationship between you and your investors, and it's an experience supported by our software. Now, what you get with that, of course, is a fully white labeled portal. The investors also get an award-winning mobile app. So they're able to access this directly through their mobile, which is really, really powerful. Even the people who are not very tech savvy love the mobile app. And your investors, they can do anything and everything all directly here from the portal. So, for example, we're looking at new offerings. This is that same offering that we just built out and pushed to the investors. If I hit new offering, I can take a look at any and all content they might have logged here and tied to the system, any sort of video content that you might have uploaded. And realistically here, I can even put myself and bridge the gap digitally between myself and that actual investment. It's incredibly powerful. This is something super unique to AppFolio. And then, of course, here we've got who you're investing with. So always important here to note that it's important to showcase the team behind the scenes. Now, what we're also wanting to point out here is that we're bridging the gap as tightly as we can with the investor and yourself in a digital sense. So again, they can hit invest here, and this is going to take them through a fully customized by you fundraising workflow that includes all of your subdocs, that includes any sort of signature or maybe some, new investor survey. All of that can happen right here in the portal, all without leaving. And then, and let me do this. I'm going to go ahead and let me pick one of my other investors, Davis.
Yeah, you were saying the other day, it's so easy to use if even in your mobile phone that even people are not tech savvy. So you are giving me an example. Was that your dad or your father-in-law
Yeah,
that was using
it
it in
was,
his phone?
yeah, where they said that they did it on riding, they were riding a bike. We have a lot of people who say that they'll do this, and in 5 to 10 minutes on an airplane, they'll be able to become fully invested in a deal from start to finish. But we had someone saying that they were riding a bike and doing it one-handed on their phone, where they were making it seem so easy, and really it is that easy. The system here makes it just such a seamless experience. And whether this is working with your existing pool of investors going through a fundraise or a totally new investor, it doesn't matter. The system here is designed to be able to support working with any type of investor and managing any type of investment structure. So we're pretending actually right now to be one of our pretend investors. This would be Andrew Davis, and we are looking at our portal, working with capital partners. And I can see here I've got action items. So this would be any sort of, let's say, capital calls, or maybe I need to send my actual contribution to finalize an investment. I've also got any signature documents. And then down below this, we've got any new offerings that might be posted, or below this, any current investments that I have positions in. So I can quickly, at a glance from one page, or dig in and see more specifically, this is what a lot of investors do like to see, is the contributions and distributions historically over time. And they can see all of this all from one place here, which again, this is one of the most incredibly powerful experiences that investors get to have, is just having independence and autonomy when being able to access this data. And the beautiful thing for any GPs out there, you get to automate the creation of this. The system does this for you in the background. This is not a manual process. This is not a time-consuming process. This happens automatically. And it's the ability for investors to be able to take action here. So, for example, sending funds. So we can say here, send funds, and I need to send my, this is, pretty standard process, but let's say Andrew Davis wants to send 177,000 directly from their bank to your bank. You can post either wiring instructions if you prefer wires, but our system has a built-in ACH functionality where they can actually hit, just like if you were Venmoing someone money, and Venmo, and it's not Venmo, but it's a built-in payments process and built-in payment structure supported by, how many of those of you know or familiar
Late,
with Plaid?
late.
So AppFolio, about 8, 9 years ago, we actually partnered with the folks over here at Plaid so that we could build that same functionality for those of you who have experienced just how quick and easy it was to, let's say, Venmo someone some money, and you can see the list of banks and folks that use Plaid here. It's that same ease of use experience when using AppFolio. And this creates such a strong impression on investors where they didn't need to, let's say, Andrew Davis here, he just got home. It was 11 o'clock at night. And he wanted to make sure he got in on this deal before it closed. Well, he wouldn't need to wait till tomorrow to call his bank. He could sign all of his documentation, and he could send his contribution to you directly via the platform without needing to wait till tomorrow. And it wouldn't cost him $35 to do so. Right? So it's very streamlined, and it's designed to be so intuitive that investors, and that you'll find that oftentimes investors find that the system here is just as easy, if not even easier to use than platforms like Robinhood. It's also white labeled and branded to your brand. You really can't get a more professional experience here. Some of the other areas that I'll showcase, and I know that we're running up on time, so I'll give us a little bit more time than less time here, Suze, and I'll wrap up in just a couple minutes. The area that I thought that I get a lot of questions as well is on the reporting side of things. And our system is designed out of the box to be able to automate your investor reporting. And for those of you who might have a little bit more robust reporting needs, and you're pulling things like your rent rolls, cash flow, or budget reports and pulling that into investor reporting, we also have what's called an AI-driven asset management module that is going to automatically pull that data for you so that you get nice visuals. And the purpose of this, aside from it looking beautiful and making the numbers look attractive, we want to be able to push this to an investor's portal or push this onto an investor's statement so that they have the ability to view some of this data, assuming that they would be connected to any one of these particular deals. It's always going to note who should be seeing what type of data so that you
Right.
guys are always reporting the right things to the right people.
Okay. So
So
how many deal can you have in one altogether? Like, let's say I'm a very active investor, and I close on a deal, hypothetically, every 2 months, every month I close on a different deal. So how many deal can I have at one point in this particular investor portal?
Yeah, no limits. Unlimited. So unlimited amount of deals, unlimited number of investors, really unlimited amount of data. That actually is a great question. And we don't like to cap the amount of data. We we work with some firms here. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of some of these. These are just some of the folks that we work with. Like Cardone Capital or Ashcroft.
Ashcroft,
Ashcroft,
yeah.
DLP Capital is another big one. Jonathan Rose. A lot of people know some of these, and the list is quite long. AppFolio does we work with firms of all shapes and sizes, from
Mm.
your, maybe 1 or 2 million equity under management, way up into the billions. And here's the coolest part. The folks that are even on the lower end and the 1 or 2 million and they're just starting off, you get the same exact functionality that all of these guys are using. You get the same for a price that is tailored to your size of business. We're very, very interested in offering everyone that same functionality in the same capacity so that you can be doing and offering your investors the same experience that these big guys are offering. And that's just by default. So really powerful way to engage and a really powerful way to retain investors. And then I think the biggest theme here is create scalable processes, right, Suze? The scalability part. It's always so hard to simplify some of these processes enough that we can do 5, 10, 20 deals just as easily as we could 50 deals, right?
Right, right.
So, and I'd be curious here. Has anyone considered any investor portals?
Or maybe the better question, maybe what are their
You know,
experience with investors portal? Because me personally, I have used some portal that were not too friendly and can be a little bit frustrating. You're trying to get investor to you send it to the investor to send the money, and they couldn't figure out anything. And then even you on the JP side, you cannot figure it out yourself. So let
yeah.
alone and I know for me, I was raising money, um, and I ended up losing two investors because they couldn't when I sent them the link and stuff, they couldn't figure it out. And that made things become a little bit longer. And people change their mind.
Hmm.
So when they're ready to send that money, if you have a portal that make things a little bit that is not as user friendly, you can lose that investor, especially first time investor. You never know where they are until you receive that money. You don't know where you're going to end up with them. So the faster you can get that money, you can receive that money, you can make it easier. It seems that I haven't used AppFolio. I'm looking into it, but it seems a much easier portal from what I'm looking at right now, and the other one I have used. But yeah, so if you're raising capital, those are the things you might need to start looking into and trying to understand, because it's gonna get to the point where you need to know which one is better than the other one and which one is more user friendly. So those are things you need to ask yourself if you're planning on going to that route.
Absolutely. And I see another interesting one here from Wilson mentioning, and I hear this all the time, Wilson, is that folks are needing investors or wanting to find investors. One of the things that I point out here about a system like this is designed to market and promote not just one particular deal. It's designed to market and promote your brand. And so if I go to the CRM here, you'll notice that these different groupings here up at the top, you'll notice that
Mm.
actually 23 of these people are not invested. They might have just been some folks that I met out at a trade show or met, here and there. And they said, "Hey, Wilson, I want to stay in contact. Let me give you my contact information." And that personally, I find is a really powerful way to keep someone engaged because they're right there. If it comes time to market and promote that new deal, we've already got their contact information loaded up in the system, and we're already nurturing that engagement. They're seeing whether I'm pushing out, right? Because I can use this in its true marketing capacity and say, I want to, let's just say, compose some marketing emails. You can do all that right here. And let's say I want to, here's a trade show template that I built out, and it's going to automatically generate for IMN an email that I can send out to a group of investors. Or maybe I want to use a new offering template and market and promote a brand new deal. In just a couple clicks, I was able to do that. And so we find that this is one of the better tools to use to actually generate engagement from new investors. We get a lot of questions of people asking, hey, do you have a pool of investors we can plug into? Do you have a list of investors that we can access? Anytime that I've seen any GPs do that, it never really works. They do not get the engagement they're looking for. And Suze, you and I talked about this. It's better to draw the crowd through marketing and engagement, whether you have maybe a podcast or I've seen a lot of I follow a lot of my customers' YouTube channels where they're sharing insights and content. I love that because we're all looking for that insight and we're all looking for different perspectives. So that kind of content is what draws the attention and draws the crowd in. And then we just need to have a system like this where we can actually capitalize on that engagement. So, Wilson, I hope that helps answer some of those questions. We can chat further about investor and drawing investor engagement and building your investor pool up from the ground up, if that's helpful.
All right. If you guys have questions, put it in the chat or raise your hand. I have a couple questions. I don't know if you're done with the presentation. One of them is now that you're talking about sending email, if I have a form, investor qualification form, can I also put it in there?
Mhm.
And then that way I can get my investors' data into the system as well. Is that
Yeah,
something I can do in there as well?
absolutely. In fact, that's a great question. That's one common way that we see people setting their system up.
All right. So if you have it, but will that be so whatever link I put on my website for people to form, like, let's say I have a job form that I have on my website for people to add the information in order for me to vet them, whether they can invest with us or not. So
Mhm.
that form can go directly into AppFolio, and then that way, let's say those people don't invest at some point or that whatever particular deal I'm presenting them, but later on I have the data there, I can always reach out to them with future deal.
Mhm. Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And that I love the way you're thinking about that. That is exactly the way that we've designed it. And believe it or not, the nice thing about this system is that it will actually, out of the box, it actually auto generates a contact us form. And we find that a lot of people will actually, and I can't take credit for this. We had a customer create a QR code that linked to this, and they printed that QR code on the back of business cards. So when they were at a trade show handing out their business cards, folks were actually scanning that and then being able to enter their information. And this whole page here is all customizable to your business. So this would be your logo, whatever custom photo or images, and whatever custom intake information that you'd like. So this, and I love that question there, Suze, because how appropriate, where we want to bridge the gaps again to capturing the investor's information, make this as easy as possible for them, as we would want as easy as we want this to be for them as it is for you to build this and provide for them.
Okay. My other question, if I have, if I do a fund, I'm a fund manager.
Mhm.
So, and I have a lot of investors that I manage. I am in a lot of deal. Can I also use AppFolio for that? My own AppFolio for the people to invest into the deal I'm presented
Absolutely.
for
Absolutely.
fund managers. Okay. You guys work with fund managers as well?
Absolutely. We work with fund managers. We work with hard money lenders. We work with your typical syndicators or other types of funds, people who are doing crowdfunding. So we work with any and all types of deals and deal structures and different types of business structures like fund manager versus the actual GP running the deal.
Right. Yeah. Because I know some fund managers that are, managing a lot of investors. So that's why this come to mind. Of course, the the GP, they're gonna have their own portal. But if I were a fund manager and I have a lot of people I'm managing, because then I would want my own system as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them do branch off. Oftentimes, when someone is working with a fund manager, um, sometimes they find that they also want a little bit more control. So
Right.
sometimes a system like this can give individuals who were previously relying on a fund manager, gives them a little bit more of an option should they want to do that on their own and branch out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it gives you an upper edge. I mean, we all know, even though you're a fund manager, you basically an LP in other people deal. But at the
Mhm.
same time, fund managers are so many, they sometimes they in so many deal, and I know some of those people can raise up to 100 million to $200 million a year. If I were at that capacity, I'll definitely would need my own system and my own to have better control and able to manage my, because they still, I mean, the fund manager do a lot of those things. They may not be the one giving the K1, but they do a lot of work. So you still want to manage your investors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Guys, do you have any questions? Because this is a very great opportunity to ask your question, either as a, however you would like to do your I mean, raising your capital and stuff. So at some point, whether you're an LP or a GP, this is things you're gonna be running into. So that's why today we brought you this. I mean, as you guys know, I go to conferences, and most of the time that's where I get to meet most of my speakers. So I met Scott at BEC this year. I think we have course before, but this year, I say I was gonna bring a folio here to talk to you guys and show you what's out there. If you don't have a system, if you're doing, and then you can do your homework as well. But this is a way for you to know what's out there, whether you're a fund manager, whether you are a GP, and even an LP. Because as an LP, some LP, if you invest enough money in a deal, you may be able to make recommendation if you feel like they're using certain things that's not working properly in investor portal. But this is what it is. What an investor portal can bring you, can make you. But I think I have another question for you. So for someone who just started, and maybe only have a few investors, what should they be thinking about now to prepare for growth? Do you hear me,
Yeah.
Scott?
Here, can you repeat that one more
Can I
time?
repeat it? Someone who just started and maybe thinking that maybe only have a few investors at that point, what should they be thinking about now to prepare for growth?
That's a great question. I would genuinely and what a great question is that at a certain point, right, we're talking scalability. At a certain point, and usually the thing that I find compounds the amount of work we're doing is when we start working with more and more investors, or we start working with more and more sophisticated investors, and we start branching out beyond the friends and family network. That's where we start running into more and more challenges. Those are the instances when we really need to make sure that we have all of our processes buttoned up. We've got all of our systems in place. You don't want to be having to put your system together and set that up after the fact, right? It needs to be in place before you start reaching out and engaging with those types of investors or start expanding. Let's say we're at 5 or 10 investors. When we want to start really growing beyond that threshold, we have to get the system in place beforehand.
All right. Yeah, that is, I agree. A lot of time we study doing stuff, and then yeah, we go. It's better to start acting than not doing anything. But many of us, or I would say most of us, we don't start implementing system until we there. And I
Hmm.
can see why, but it will also be good if we could start ahead. That would save a lot of headache. We're at the top of the hour, so I know we started a little bit late. Um, but this is my last question, and after that, I'm gonna ask everybody to put their information in the chat. And if you're looking for something, the other day somebody was telling me they're trying to sell something and they're looking for a buyer. And I'm like, you come to my meeting all the time, you never say that. So how am I supposed to know? So you guys, if you have something, you never know what somebody is looking for. It's good to just put it in there. Okay. So from your experience, how do something like that, like AppFolio, I'm not gonna say system in general, it's too generalized, will impact and credibility with investors or even lenders. And then you're gonna take that's for you, Scott. So you don't have to give me a long answer, but you know, from your experience, how do you think a system like AppFolio or an investor portal will impact credibility with investors and even lenders?
Yeah, that's a great question. I find that when it comes to credibility, the investors want to see how consistent and how repeatable all of these processes are, but they also want to be able to see uh, that the level of professionalism is related to as well the access that they have, the accessibility that they have to various processes or various information. Investor transparency is a big piece of that. So how quickly are they receiving reporting on the deals that they're in, and how detailed is the level of reporting that they're receiving? And then the other part would be how accessible is a lot of this information. So do they have a portal? Is it simply just something that they jump into their email and that they have to dig through their email to find? So that level of professionalism there for the investors specifically is very, very big. And then the other part, Suze, you were asking about lenders. Was that part
Yeah,
of it?
no, I was just saying, how will that impact the credibility, basically build your trust with lenders and investors?
Yeah. And I would say same story with lenders as well, is seeing that, this firm and this group, they have their stuff really, they're really buttoned up. They've got their stuff together. They've got processes in place where if this event happens, we know exactly when to do this. It's not something where they're just freestyling some of their operations. It's all very well structured. And that's the beauty of using a system like AppFolio, is that it creates the structure. In having a system like that, it automatically implements structure and, of course, flexibility to adapt to the way that you do business.
All right. That is so great. That is such a great opportunity to be here to kind of like when I was studied in real estate, I didn't know about any of the stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody was telling me about this. And as a GP, um, it's a way like you think there's so many things you need to put together in order for you to move forward. So I feel like it's those things you need to do. Be in certain room, you hear certain things. Yesterday I was in a room. Oh my God, there was a guy who was speaking about losing a lot of deal and how he cope with all that. So that's why we go to meetings like that to hear all that's out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That
Mhm.
way you know how to position yourself because I feel like when you're more informed, you can make better decisions. As
Mhm.
opposed if you didn't know, you're like, oh, I don't know. Like that's when you get there, oh my God, I don't have this. And at this point, it's already too late because you didn't have it and because you didn't know about it. So thank you so much. I truly appreciate you being here on a Saturday.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
happy to do that.
today. So yeah, I truly appreciate that. So guys, put your camera. Oh, usually here, Scott, we take a picture at the
Okay.
end of the meeting. We ask everybody to put their camera on. So we take a picture. Y'all, if you're here, put your camera on. Let's take a picture. Let's go, let's go. So, and I usually post that picture on LinkedIn on Sundays, if you guys know. So, yeah. All right. So, uh, ready, guys? Are you guys ready? Smiley. Hey, my friend. All right, ready?
Chào anh, thôi để đừng có để tao nằm xuống.
All right. Oh my God. I think that's one of
Yes.
the best picture I have in a long time.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan and
All
Scott.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
All
Absolutely.
right. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you guys next week and have a great day. Bye,
Same to
everyone.
you. Take
Thank you,
care.
Susan.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Sue. Thoughts,
You're welcome.
comments,
Bye-bye. Hey,
please.
he left.